just fucking took his hands and flipped this table that you see here, which had like two CDJs, two turntables, and a mixer on it.
Go online and like be the nerds that we were. So you kind of knew anyone you met that was just like you doing the same thing was going to be cool.
And then I got to Philly, and I noticed in that same sort of like time period, that's when DJs would bust out their Baltimore club sets, you know?
Did you name yourself Dirty South Joe?
No.
No.
Mike did.
Hey there, it's me, Roxy Cottontail. You might know me as a DJ, artist, designer, and New York City party promoter, or from my bunny logo. I'm putting all that on the table and writing about the years that transformed music and the New York City scene. I've interviewed 250 friends and colleagues I admire. I ask all and reveal all. Please join me and the Tales to rediscover the 90s and the Y2K magical landscape of music, art, technology, and streetwear. This is Roxy's Tales.
Well, first, introduce yourself.
My name is Joey Masarway, aka Dirty South Joe. I DJ and produce parties and whatnot, events. Actually, I like to think of what I do is building brands. That's what I'm more focused on these days.
My guest this week on Roxy's Tales is Dirty South Joe, an unparalleled innovator for DJs and party promotion. Joe made tsunami-sized waves in the Y2K era of record stores at Armand's, one of the most notorious in Philadelphia, helping to distribute newer sounds of music from Dirty South and Crunk to Baltimore and Jersey Club. His influence bridged the gap of an entire nation's genres and soon globally once the internet caught on. Without further ado, Dirty South Joe.
You and I know each other how?
See, I feel like the first time I met you was like the guys brought you into Armand's. I don't know if it was Mike or Wes or both of them.
I don't either. I think I was just, I don't know if I had moved back to New York because there was a time, I lived in Philly for like 10 months.
You were in New York at that time.
I was.
But you were like coming down for like a Hollertronics party or something. I moved to Philly from New York, and I was in New York from like 95 until like 2002, right?
Okay.
And like, so it was like, that was the thing. Like when I came to Armand's, like I used to, as a DJ and whatever music consumer, I would shop in so many different stores in New York. I had a dozen plus stores in like the monthly and sometimes the weekly and sometimes even like twice a week, like rotation of places to always like get the hottest shit or whatever.
Where are you originally from?
I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. And then I actually, strangely enough, went to kindergarten in LA.
Oh, wow.
And then moved to my grandmother's house in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And from Tennessee, when we moved to Georgia, to Riverdale, and then a place called Ackworth, Georgia. And then I moved to live with my dad in DC, in the DC area, and went to finished up high school in like Northern Virginia.
Okay. Wow, you're everywhere.
Yeah, and then when my dad passed away was when I like moved to New York. That Giuliani fucking summer was just miserable. His like systematic day-by-day war on the poor. Like one day it's just like, Giuliani is going after all the street vendors. Now it's like, no, we're going after jaywalkers. And every day, every week, it was something else where they were just like really trying to like change.
Cabaret laws.
Cabaret laws was the worst. Oh my God. I remember that transition from one week to the next where there were just chairs and tables in the middle of all these little spots in the LES where we used to just like jam, you know?
Yeah. Where were you going out?
This is crazy. Me and this girl, her name's Sashenda. Do you remember the place in Larissa called Alchemy?
Yeah.
This little bar. We used to do a party there in like 99 called Get Crunk. Like
no way.
Yeah, I was like, we used to do a weekly there, me and her, and it was funny because I was getting all these like, I was still like, my exploration and like newfound really like reconnection or like love of like Dirty South stuff. So like you got like the Hot Boys, like Bling Bling and stuff was coming around that era and stuff, and so I'm like finding that stuff on vinyl and we're just like playing it, and it was just fun. But I would also go to like some of like the tunnel nights and stuff, like hip hop nights, and then I would also go to like Twilo and stuff for like raving stuff. Because I lived with a couple of guys, and one of them that was a pretty successful like like techno and like electro producer, this guy John Selway.
Mhm.
And so he would, I would just kind of like, we would just all do parties together. Me and him and our other roommate Zach, we kind of like formed like a sort of a band kind of thing, and we'd like DJ parties together and stuff.
You have an appreciation for all music, so I know that because I know you,
Sure.
and I'm the same way. And I feel like when I met you at Armand's, I was like, didn't know much about Dirty South music at all, really, because like what really spoke to me of first rolling into a Hollertronics, thanks to Lauren Durgan and Jason Musson, was hearing Baltimore club music. And I didn't know that anyone listened to that outside of Maryland,
That shit flipped my wig when I first moved to Philly, because I was coming from, like, as you would know, like if you were like not, dance music excluded, but just coming from like the hip hop DJing perspective, once it became like the super like into the night, like late night hours, that's when DJs would like bust out their dance hall sets in New York,
Yeah.
And like, and then I got to Philly and I noticed in that same sort of like time period, that's when DJs would bust out their Baltimore club sets, And it was also like, we had at Armand's, at that record store, like there was a certain point in time for a few years, actually, when I was like doing the buying it, that we were actually moving more Baltimore club vinyl out of that store than the Baltimore and the rest of the country combined.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like our only close competition as far as like actual volume was maybe Turntable Lab. And I feel really blessed to have actually just like gone to Baltimore and worked with like so many people there, and just like, just trying to be this like bridge between Baltimore and Jersey here in Philly, because we don't quite have the same amount of like people that have been like producing the music, but we definitely have like our own distinct like take on it. And then it's just so culturally ingrained in just like the city.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you said you lived in DC, but that's go-go. And
yeah.
And you wouldn't know, because 92Q in Baltimore plays it on the radio. And like I grew up, I was like in middle school, I think, when Doo Doo Brown broke, and I was like,
that was it. That was the only crossovers. It was like Doo Doo Brown, and then this version of like Thuggish Ruggish Bone that was over the Doo Doo Brown beat. Like that was as close in DC as we got to Baltimore club music.
I'm assuming you met Mike and Wes from just Armand's.
Exactly. Mike was working there. He would come in like once a week or something like that. And it was just like, we just kind of immediately clicked because we liked the same shit, and he was also like, he and Wes were doing this thing where they were like, Dirty South music was, a big part of it. And the thing was, like I told you, in like 99, even I was doing that party in New York where it was like called Get Crunk. And it was definitely like this Dirty South influence thing, and there. So that by the time it's like 2003, the first thing I noticed about Philly DJs and a lot of the culture of just like not even appreciating how awesome they were was just still being completely and totally swinging from and beholden to like New York's dick when it comes to anything related to hip hop. And it was like, you guys did not get the memo, but New York is over. New York is not running hip hop anymore. Like it's moved on, but like you couldn't tell that to Philly at the time, because by 2004, by the time Bone Crusher, Never Scared, and T.I. and like all of these things came out, it was like officially like, this is the hits are coming from Atlanta, they're coming from Houston, they're coming from other places.
This is an early Yuki Club flyer, and the party was called Get Crunk Now before it was called Hollertronics. Did you know
that? No, I didn't know that. So that must have been in like what, 2003 or something?
Yeah, none of these have the date on it. I feel like it was 2002.
Yeah. That was when my DJing was still deluxe with 3 X's.
Yes, I know. Your belief in Southern rap, to even like, and you're like, I didn't want anyone to be late to the party, is just a testament to your name. I mean, did you name yourself Dirty South Joe?
No.
Mike did.
And then Wes claimed credit for it for years until we checked him for it. And we're like, because that's kind of his thing. Wes will steal your memories and pretend that they're his. There was another guy at Armand's named Joey Blanco. I think like that was a good way to like differentiate us. It was just like Dirty South Joey Blanco. And then once I was actually like on the Hollerboard on the actual message board at that point, like I was just like, all right, let me just do Dirty South Joe like all the time. You know, it's like one of those things like you ever see like the childhood like block in home and just like you go back and it looks tiny. You know what I mean? Like it's like so small. Yeah. That's the way I feel about the Yuki. Like I feel like if I went in there and looked in that room, I'd be like, oh my God, this is just this tiny little room, you know, this is whatever. But at the time, like there were these, you know, these stupid legendary parties that were just.
They weren't stupid.
Oh, I meant stupid with like 2 O's.
Oh.
Like,
okay, that kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Where were you DJing in Philly? Or were you not?
Like I formed a kind of a collective right off the bat called G13 Sound. And we were trying to be like a sound system. So I had like a few other DJs, a couple of them that I worked with at Armand's. I liked that idea. I mean, I actually at that point I thought of Mike and Wes like together as like those are the you know, that's electronic sound system. And then like I knew, you know, the guy Kenny Mees that did reggae. He was him and Max Glazer, you know, Federation Sound. And I was just definitely like being like more and more like kind of interested and consumed by like, you know, that dancehall like sound system like group thing, you know.
Yeah.
We were actually like, we did a lot of reggaeton parties in Philly. We actually like kind of made waves in like probably like 05, 06. We actually like we're getting like G13, like the Philly Weekly, like the entertainment section, like the little cover stories and stuff like that, because we started it at Silk City, the old Silk City, and we were doing like a reggaeton monthly and stuff. And I don't know. I was just trying to be like, just do some outside of the box kind of shit, you know? Everything that was like for me at the time that was really like was again another one you mentioned Brendan, and another like sound system was him and Joey Blanco. It wasn't like they were sound system, but the way they did their Soul Travelers party, it was like the same thing. Like they were playing like all this amazing, you know, classic soul and R&B music, and just like and doing it in a really, really, you know, super dance floor friendly, nothing sounded old kind of a way, you know. And they were, you know, that was another like sort of localized like sound system. So sort of like all the influence, just people like groups of people that you were like directly around all the time, you know. And between that and like, and just like the overall influence of Baltimore club, just of being like trying to find out more, trying to get all the good records, and you know, being the main focal point of distribution for that stuff.
Yeah,
like those things were just like Armand's was its own like universe of like influence, you know.
I was also going to say the Remedy at Fluid.
I missed that. I wasn't.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was like that was a little before my time here in Philly. But I was inspired by it enough to know that they did it on Monday nights. And so that was where I was like, that was where I started Mandy's Monday, was at Fluid. That went to a few different places, but like the reason why we started at Fluid on a Monday was because I knew that it could be like a successful night because of the Remedy. Yeah. I didn't know Cosmo that well at the time because he was kind of more, I think he actually, like, when I was in Philly for the first few years, like he was in New York. And then even like at that time, kind of looked at Flosstradamus that way too. They weren't like, you know, the big trap EDM guys or anything. They were kind of like doing basically like Chicago electronics, you know, where they had like juke in place of Baltimore club, you know?
Yeah.
But it was still kind of like the same thing. So that was where it was like, that was it. Now everybody's just like their own little individual DJs. Nobody's doing like the collective, like, you know,
the sound
squad sound system thing these days.
Like all of these subgenres that I was into are now so mainstream and easily accessible, whereas it was so like, it was just so exciting to hear things that you had not heard before.
It was also so exciting to hear like a variety of things that obviously had like so many different influences. Nothing was like, there was no set in stone like sound or structure to it, you know what I mean? Everything was just like, It's new, it's awesome, it's cool. Like, oh, cool, you know.
So, and then how did your relationship with Brick Bandits come about?
Well, it started initially from talking to Meal back in the day, DJ Tamil,
Yeah.
who was doing some hollerboarding back then, but also like I was writing for the Philadelphia Weekly too. I was doing a little music column called What's Up With, where I would just like interview some people, and I did one with him, and then somewhere along the way, he told DJ Sega, who was like coming up to come and to go find me. And Sega like went to find me at Armand's and whatever. And like I ended up like managing him and bringing him to Mad Decent and doing all of that. You know, Tamil was like a member of the Brick Bandits. And then through him and through Sega, who had just became a Brick Bandit, like the guys that run Brick Bandits are Tim Dolly and Mike B. And they brought Sega in, and then so it wasn't too long after that I met those guys, and just was sort of being like almost like the unofficial publicist for Brick Bandits for a while until they were just like, you know, they started like an actual like Philly Bandits chapter, and so I was like the president of the Philly Bandits, and Sega was the vice president, and then we had like a Brick Bandits like Fader article, you know, and I go up every month for like these meetings and stuff, which is like some adults and like 50 kids in the house. Like it was like, but it was cool because it was like this kind of, it was cool to link up with them just because they had such a like a you know, collective kind of like Brick Bandits would participate in AIDS Walk every year and stuff like that, and it was just very positive like way for people to like embrace music and kind of like stay out of trouble and stuff.
We all were such enthusiasts of good music, and kind of just like having a good time. And we're so nerdy enough to even go online and like be the nerds that we were. So you kind of knew anyone you met that was just like you doing the same thing was going to be cool.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really, I mean, like you're saying, like to your, like speaking on what you're sharing, like anyone who was really in that universe with us was probably just as creative and cool at whatever they were doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What else do I need to ask you? Oh, songs that you think are personify the era. For me personally, like that whole era, like takes me back to the board. And then there was just like one particular song that came from the message board that I thought was like awesome. And that was the Kid Curtis Vodka's like Chris Brown remix called like Hey Girl, that I think KCG ended up like putting on vinyl on his label. On like a picture disc, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it wasn't that song, that remix, that like Alaskan kid doing his like melodic. I wasn't even familiar with the Chris Brown song. It was like some album cut. It wasn't like one of his hits, really. But like that remix and shit, and just like the way we were all like, as the message board, like collectively proud of this guy for like making this awesome music that we were all like playing on repeat, and it was just like born from the message board. That was like the one, probably like the one song from them. It's like I would definitely, you know, latch onto that era. It's
fun to, and like very emotional and cathartic to go look at all of these flyers and all of these memories as a body of work. And I was just like living the dream every damn day, trying to bring Houston Screw tributes or, right, you know, Andre Nicotina or Juke or whatever the case may be to New York, just because I loved it. And now looking at that, and I'm like, ultimately all of these subcultures, and, you know, with the web that we had at our fingertips, it was accessible. So yeah, I mean, it was like, it's crazy because it was like the dawn of social media, and it was just like the era was just like, sort of like the blueprint for things that are just so normalized these days. But at the time, it was like really decent, very different. This was the Mad Decent block party, I think. Was this the after party? The table flip? Yes, at the Barbary. Do you want to tell that story? What happened to that guy? Oh, this is good. Here he is right here. Which guy?
He's right behind Wes right now with the blue shirt.
Oh, shit.
And that's really kind of the issue. All right. So what it was he was like more or less on the stage like the whole time. And I don't know if you know this, but every single person that's right now on that stage, I can kind of tell you who they are.
Yeah.
Or you were like right over here to the right a little bit more. I don't know, but my point is like everybody knew who everybody was because we were all like friends or whatever. But this guy, nobody knew who he was. And that wasn't really a big deal except for the fact that he kept getting closer and closer to Wes to the point where he was just like almost fucking grinding on him. He was almost a shadow. So at that point, me, shirtless, I and Bo Blizz and the three guys from A Tribe Called Red, who are just like these hulking dudes, we basically like, not intimidatingly, like Catch Dubs was right there next to us too.
Mm-hmm.
We basically just like surround the kid and I was just like, you know, I booked everybody for this. Like, you know what I mean? This is my event essentially, so I feel responsible for it. But I was just like, hey man, who are you here with? And he just was like, he couldn't really give me an answer. And I was like, because like Wes was really uncomfortable. This guy was literally like so on his shit. And it was like, hey, yeah, man, you got to go. You got to get off the stage. And he was just like, nah, you know, he was just being very resistant or whatever. And I never really like put my hands on him. You know, that was the whole point. Was to ask the guy to like leave, you know? And he just kind of like, Mike was DJing at the time when it happened. Mike was playing this like Spin the C remix of something with like Lil Jon on it, where it's like Lil Jon is going, it's getting hot in this motherfucker. It's getting hot. And then like this guy, instead of like leaving the stage, literally just like runs under my arm, runs past Catch Dubs and runs up and, you know, like just fucking took his hands and flipped this table that you see here, which had like 2 CDJs, 2 turntables and a mixer on it. And he just tossed it up in the air. And what was crazy is that at the simultaneous moment that happened, I knew what was going on because I was the guy trying to get him to leave. Mike was as in the mix, in quotes, as a DJ could be. He was literally between transitions that he was working on and just in his zone. And so Mike's right here, and this guy comes up on his left and flips the turntables. Mike's immediate reaction was he just like kind of just like turned and he fucking punched the guy. He punched the kid in the front of his head. Simultaneously, I was coming from behind. I was also swinging. We connected at the same time on opposite sides of this dude's head.
Oh my God.
He kind of like hit the ground real quick, then kind of jumped into the crowd real quick and ran out of the club and somehow kind of escaped. And okay, here's where it really gets crazy. So later that night, after I packed up and everything and, you know, paid everybody out or whatever, you know, just like end of the night, everything's over. I'm getting a cab to go home. Somehow I get in conversation with the cab driver. This is pre-Uber days. Cab driver actually drove that kid home too and remembered it. And then here's where it gets even crazier is, you know, we identified him and knew like who he was, but like Mike was pretty ashamed of basically like, he just felt like to just have immediately to have that kind of like violent reaction. He just thought it was like a really bad reflection on him or something. So he wasn't really like proud of it. He didn't think it was as awesome as I did.
No, I thought it was awesome.
Because, well, here's what happened was, and this is like at a time when like, I don't know, I think Tosh.0 was like still a really big deal, a big show. But like that first 24 hours when this happened, 2 things happened. One person recorded it and had like this clip of it on YouTube, and somebody else like made like a GIF of it. Those things got like 25,000 views each, like in the first like few hours. And you could tell it was heading to a moment of like viral infamy. I was like, this will be on Tosh.0. This is just too good, you know? It's just like to watch the video over and over, it's just like, it's fascinating. Where does he come from? And then boom, and then it's just like, and then as soon as you see us like swing on him, then that person's camera like dips into the ground. Like it's like, it didn't stop filming. It just like they stopped filming that part, and it's like dark, and you just hear some girl in the background go, "Party foul," and all this stuff. And you know, I don't know if you remember, but we had the music back up like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, no,
like everything was like it never happened. So part of Mike being like upset about being, you know, having a violent reaction was that he reached out to the person that posted it on YouTube and asked them to take it down. And they did pretty quickly. Like they took it down before it could really continue to get like super, you know, viral.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all of this anonymity that he had to be infamous was like afforded to him because Mike decided to take it down. Like had he left it up, it would have been a whole different thing. And I do think that the clip itself would have gone like, you know, that Tosh.0 level of like everybody seeing it, America's Funniest Home Videos type viral, because it was just fucking incredible. And it bums me out. I can't even just send you a link right now that we can see it. I don't think I have a saved copy of it, but I do love watching it over and over again because it's easy to even. I mean, yeah, this is definitely the last time I definitely was like shirtless. Maybe the first time in public too at a party. So I'm fucking like, I got a overload, I got a beer in my hand. I don't know, I'm wasted or something. But we punched him at the same fucking time.
That's amazing.
I
just remember, like, I mean, you can see people's faces. It's just like mayhem already. And then this motherfucker comes in. Props for you for keeping the Hollertronics name alive. And, you know.
Oh, thank you. That was actually funny. That was the last time I like worked with Mad Decent Block Party in any like official capacity, like production wise, you know. I was just like, because I could just see it every year getting bigger and bigger and more out of control. I was like, can I have this one after party? And it was like the first time that the Barbary ever did anything on that third floor. Like we were just like,
yeah,
we're just like, we're gonna have a fucking blowout on two floors. And it was also fun to actually like take all like the like people that weren't like booked for the Mad Decent Block Party, but that were just like, you know, all of the Hollerboard folks.
I love all the stories. Thank you so much, Joe. You're a pleasure as always. All right, cool. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Cool.
Thanks for hopping by. That's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and stalk. Bounce, little kitty.